What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 6 team builder of the GBA Season 8, where your undefeated Kansas City Giraffe Chiefs are preparing to take on CrimsonCBAD and his Detroit Steel Wings. This is going to be a really challenging matchup, let me tell you. I'll get into the team build here in just a second, but before we jump into this, I do want to first apologize because I did not have time for a press conference upload this week, so I do apologize for that. It's a pretty crazy week for me. It just wasn't really in the cards to be able to get that done, unfortunately, but we'll try to be back with another one of those here next week, so you can be looking forward to that. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup here, but I guess I don't think I ever mentioned this. Make sure to go check out my opponent's channel as well, CrimsonCBAD. He's a cool dude. He's been around the GBA for a while, so I'm sure a lot of you are pretty familiar with him, but just in case you're not, make sure to go check him out. He creates very high quality content in my opinion, so definitely worth a watch. Now, his team is really scary. Crimson's a very good drafter. He has Mega Beedrill, Thunderous Incarnate, which is a Z Captain, Lycanroc Dusk, Infernape, Jirachi, Kangaskhan, which is another Z Captain, Suicune, Volibee, Tangela, Donphan, and Cofagrigus. That is a terrifying team, especially because of his speed tiers. His speed tiers match up so well against me here, especially from his most threatening Pokemon like the Thunderous Incarnate and the Jirachi. Especially those speed tiers are really good against my team, and they single-handedly kind of murder me. So I'm going to label this one as one of the harder matchups for me of the season, just because it's so hard for my team to deal with Thunderous and Jirachi. If you look across my draft, you can see it in front of you right now. Jirachi with like a Life Orb, or even just like Calm Mind 3 attacks, Substitute 3 attacks with a like offensive EV investment, it can just destroy me. Just a combination of stuff like Psychic Moonblast and Thunderbolt. What do I have? All I really have is Arcanine, I think, for that. So that really puts a lot of pressure on me as a builder, and also puts a lot of pressure on me as a battler to keep Arcanine healthy so I don't just lose to a Calm Mind Jirachi or to a Life Orb 4 attacks Jirachi. That's just such a massive threat against my team that I have to be really careful around it here in this matchup, in my opinion. But also the Thunderous. Crimson has used Thunderous so well throughout this season. It's easily one of the biggest threats against my team, and apparently against the league as a whole, as Crimson has a lot of kills. I think Thunderous is like #1 on the leaderboard right now, roughly, or at least like top 3. So yeah, Thunderous is a big threat against my team, no doubt there. And yeah, so I'm going to have to try to build a team that's not totally blown back by it. So Thunderous and Jirachi are really the two centerpieces that I'm going to do my best to immobilize with my team as well as possible. It's not really going to be easy. In fact, I don't think it's actually possible to entirely immobilize those like I would have preferred to do, but yeah, basically the game plan needs to be to make sure those two are not able to just straight up sweep me, and that's going to be how I'm trying to build this team. Now, other threats on his team, the Infernape is a pretty big threat against me as well. I think I have the proper responses to it. Stuff like a Fat Arcanine, like a Seismitoad, like a Mega Venusaur, those are all Pokemon that can deal with it relatively well, but it's still a Mon that's incredibly versatile. That's just why Infernape is good in draft format. It is so versatile, and he could bring a variety of sets. However, with that said, I personally think he is forced into bringing a Choice Scarfed Infernape to check an Autotomized Celesteela, because if you look at his team, he is very weak to an Autotomized Celesteela. If I'm able to get up a free Autotomized and still have my potential Z-move on deck, he can straight lose to that. His only potential ways to maybe check that is stuff like a Fat Volibee, maybe a Suicune. Those are two things that could check it pretty well. I think Thunderous, if it's relatively heavily bulk invested, could deal at least with a special Celesteela if that was the route I decided to take. So he has a few ways to kind of check that, but in reality, Autotomized Celesteela is so good against him that I think he's forced to bring a Choice Scarfed Infernape or a Choice Scarfed Thunderous, but I think Choice Scarfed Infernape is much more likely to be able to check a Celesteela at +2 speed. So I think that does help the Infernape situation here a lot in this matchup, but it doesn't make Infernape any less of a threat, quite honestly. But just looking at some of the threats on my team, Celesteela, already mentioned, massive threat. Another pretty big one is the Breloom, once again, because Breloom, sure, it's outsped by like his entire team basically, but if I slap a Choice Scarf on that once again, it's actually able to check a Thunderous, which I think is going to be a setup variant against me, like I've already alluded to. I think it's going to be the Nasty Plotter Bulk Up, so having a Breloom to be able to check that with a Scarf Rock Tomb could really be convenient here in this matchup, something I'm strongly considering for in this team build. And just in general, being able to offensively check stuff like the Suicune, to offensively check the Lycanroc, to offensively check the Infernape if I need to, all of those, or even the Jirachi. Breloom's not really a good offensive check to Jirachi, but at least I could sport if I was a Choice Scarf set. So, yeah, Breloom is very good against him offensively, I feel, in this matchup, with pretty spammable moves overall. So Breloom does look pretty good, but, you know, outside of that, I don't see too many great offensive win cons for me in this matchup. So it goes back to this being really, really tough to build for, gonna be tough to play as well. But, you know, I'm capable of building for in a matchup like this, but it's definitely not easy, to say the least. But one other very interesting mon that actually matches up better than it has in any other match this season for me is a Lowland Persian, as a Lowland Persian speed tier is phenomenal against Crimson's team. Base 115 is exactly what I need, because that is able to outspeed the Thunderous, the Lycanroc, the Infernape. It outspeeds everything that's not the Mega Beedrill, which is still pretty much what I really need my offensive Pokemon to be able to do, and Lowland Persian is one of the few offensive Pokemon I have that are actually able to do that here in this matchup. So Lowland Persian, let me tell you, it's coming this time, and we're going to see what we can do with it. So in terms of the overall game plan, like I said, it's going to be to prevent myself from getting swept by the Jirachi or by the Thunderous, but in essence, it's going to end up being a very reactive type of team build here that I'm going to show you, just because I don't really feel like I have the offensive tools to be able to entirely dictate the flow of the match. So I need to be able to react to what his strategy is and then try to figure out my win conditions from there, essentially. But most likely those win conditions will be something along the lines of the Celesteela or the Breloom in this matchup. So let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit. So the first mon on the team is going to be the Celesteela. Now, I have an Akaberry on this, okay, because I am so convinced he is going to bring a Scarf Infernape to try to check me, so I think it is actually in my best interest to lure in that Infernape and use that as my opportunity to get a Beast Boost instead of using a Z move to do it, just because I think, like I said, he is forced to bring Infernape, Choice Scarfed, to check a +2 Celesteela, so when he brings that, I'll be able to live the Flare Blitz most likely, and then I'll be able to kill him or knock him out with an Air Slash, which will give me the +1 Beast Boost, and then at that point I'll be in a position where I might be able to sweep the rest of his team. With this set, I'm going to need a little bit of extra damage on the Thunderous to be able to knock it out with a +1 Flamethrower, but I do think that the team I've created here is going to be able to accomplish that, especially if I'm able to get Stealth Rocks on the field, and that's something I will talk about here soon, but I do want to prioritize Stealth Rocks in this game because he has the Mega Beedrill and the Thunderous, both of which are very quickly worn down by Stealth Rock. So that's something I want to have to support this potential win condition, but essentially what this does is it outspeeds a Thunderous at +2 speed after an Autotomize. It's also able to take a variety of hits from his mons. It takes hits from the Jirachi if I needed to, as I do expect that to be specially based. I expect that to have Thunderbolt or Thunder. Even so, this is actually able to take a Life Orb Thunder from that Jirachi, which is something I saw in some of my mock battles, so I think it could definitely come in this game, so I do have the investment to make sure I can take that. I can also take a hit from Thunderous, not a boosted Thunderous, but if it's just a straight up Thunderbolt, I can actually take that hit with this as well, which might end up bailing me out in terms of being able to pull off that sweep with the Celesteela, and then the rest of my investment is just in the special offense. So overall, pretty solid mon against this team. I do think it's a little bit tough to set up against him. That's the only downside to Celesteela in this matchup, but I have some ways of aiding that setup, and one of those ways to do that is through the Alolan Persian. Parting Shot. Parting Shot is really nice for Celesteela setup opportunities, being able to Parting Shot on a variety of things on Crimson's team that I think might be forced to switch out against the Celesteela, and I think that could be really handy here. So I do have enough offensive investment, or rather enough speed, to outpace the Thunderous, so that's no surprise there. I have Icy Wind to be able to do a lot of damage to it, Technician boosted as well, which is pretty nice. It also lowers his speed to the point where my Arcanine is going to be able to outspeed him as well, which is nice, and I'll show you that set here in just a second. But yeah, Icy Wind is really good to check the Thunders specifically. It also does super effective damage to the Donphan, as well as, I believe, to one other Mon on his team, the Tangela, I guess, and the Volibee as well. Does super effective damage to all those, which is pretty nice. Snarl is good. It's very spammable against its team. Really good against the Cofagrigus. Really good against the Jirachi as well. This is a very good Pokemon to help check that Jirachi. That's such a massive threat against my team. If I'm able to get off a Snarl against it and I'm still at high health, I can probably take any hit from that Jirachi as well, which could be very nice for sure. And Snarl just in general is nice to help combat the likelihood of him bringing something like a Calm Mind Jirachi. It can reduce his special attack stat, or maybe even Calm Mind or Nasty Block Cofagrigus. It could be really good to reduce the special attack stats of those as well. Thunderbolt is nice for the Suicune. So this is basically just an all-around check to scary things on his team, something that will help keep my defense afloat in this game, because I really do think I have to win this game through my defense by playing more of a reactive game, having more of a reactive game plan, trying to see what his strategies are, and Persian will help me pivot around those options and keep his scary offensive mons in check. So that's Persian's job here in this game. Expert Belt just ensures that I can do a little bit of extra damage against all those things, as this coverage pretty much hits his whole team super effectively as well. So yeah, so that's pretty good. Next up is the Arcanine. This is my the Pokemon that is so essential so that I don't just straight lose the Jirachi. I basically am forced to keep this thing to full health at every single instance if I can, which is kind of unfortunate. I definitely would prefer to be able to like dish off some powerful Flare Blitzes, Toxics, and whatnot throughout the game, but I am kind of forced to keep this thing healthy, because especially if Stealth Rocks are on the field. If Rocks are on the field, I literally have to click Morning Sun like every single time that forces switch out, which, you know, that kind of sucks. But if Rocks are not on the field, if I'm able to pressure him so that he doesn't get Rocks, then this has a little bit more freedom. It's still kind of pressured, but it has a little bit more freedom to at least click offensive attacks from time to time, so that's kind of nice. But the investment on this does allow me to survive any 2 hits from Jirachi after Stealth Rock, as long as he's not Choice Specs. So that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good benchmark to hit here. The speed allows me to outpace the Thundurus after it gets hit with a Rock Tomb from my Breloom or an Icy Wind from my Alolan Persian. So that's nice as well, and then the rest just throw it to Physical Bulk to take hits from the Infernape a little bit better, as I am once again anticipating that to be a Choice Scarf set. Being able to switch this in and whittle him down with Rocky Helmet could be nice. Also nice to help whittle down the Mega Beedrill. So next up is the Mega Venusaur. So this set's pretty nice. Basically my guaranteed response to Suicune, as long as I don't get flinched, as if you bring Suicune, I 100% expected to have either Extra Sensory or Air Slash, because I have a Breloom and a Mega Venusaur, and those two are my best ways to offensively check a Suicune, so it makes a lot of sense for him to bring one or the other there. But even so, this is able to always check something like a Vencoon, the sub-toxic Suicune, maybe Protect, Toxic, Sub-Toxic, Protect, whatever he's going to be. This is able to check all of those, which is really nice. Again, it's a little bit weak to Air Slash or Extra Sensory Suicune if he's more offensive especially, but I need something like this on my team so that Suicune just doesn't body me. Suicune's so annoying. Suicune's like one of the most annoying Pokemon I've ever had to prep or play against, I think. So I definitely don't want to lose to a Suicune. So in terms of the coverage here, went back and forth between Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain on this set, but I knew I needed Knockoff to help me against the Volibee to get rid of its Eviolite if he brings it, also to get rid of the item on Jirachi. So if I can get rid of that Life Orb, but that's what he has, maybe get rid of the leftovers, whatever it may be, that really helps out my team a lot in the long run. So that's something I really want to be able to do. Sludge Bomb is just nice and spammable against this team. Opted for that over Giga Drain so that I could hit his offensive threats as well as Volibee a little bit harder than I would have been able to if I were running Giga Drain instead. So that's the Mega Venusaur. Then I have the Breloom. Once again, this is a Choice Scarf set like I've already talked about. Really good against this team. It offensively checks the Thundurus with Rock Tomb, offensively checks the Suicune with Bullet Seed, offensively checks the Jirachi with a Scarf Spore if I need to, and Mach Punch doesn't exactly feel good either, considering I'm expecting this to be more of a frail offensive Jirachi, but Mach Punch is also really good against a variety of the scarier things on his team. Mach Punch would be able to always hit an Infernape Infernape, which is pretty nice, especially if he's like an SD or maybe a nasty plot variant of Infernape with priority. This would be able to outspeed him with my own priority and do a ton to Infernape, as Adamant Mach Punch, Technician boosted from a Breloom, 130 base attack, that does a lot of damage. So yeah, really nice to be able to chip down stuff like that. Just a nice safety Pokemon against him for this week. And then finally I have the Seismitoad, which is more of a specially defensive variant. My rocker against his team, ice coverage and ground coverage has perfect coverage against his entire team, so that's pretty nice. Earthquake is just really spammable, and I felt like I really needed Ice Punch for the Thundurus just to make sure I can guarantee that the Thundurus ends up being in range of either Breloom's Rock Tomb or the Alolan Persian's Icy Wind, as yeah, it's just such a big threat. I really have to take those sorts of measures to be able to ensure that. I have Toxic on this, and I believe Toxic on Arcanine as well, just because he has a lot of fat mons that I want to make sure I can whittle down. He has like the Volibee, the Cofagrigus, he has the Donphan that I'd love to have Toxic on if I have that opportunity. Tangela as well, if he decides to bring that, although I'm like 100% convinced, honestly, he's not bringing Tangela. Trying to see if there's anything else. Maybe the Kangaskhan, that could be a fat Witch Passer or something. This is nice to be able to Toxic all those things, but really this thing's main job is to get up those Stealth Rocks as early as possible in the game and to help me out against a potential Crocoon, as Crocoon obviously would not be able to touch a Water Absorb. Seismitoad, the full Spadef investment allows me to take random grass coverage from a lot of his threats, like the Infernape, Thundurus, all those. I can take a grass move from each of those as long as it is not Life Orb boosted or a Z move, so yeah, I think this is very good at being able to check a lot of things on his team and get up the Stealth Rocks, hopefully to stay in this game, as I don't think he has very solid removal against me. He's not going to bring removal on Thundurus. He might bring Volibee, and if Volibee comes, I think that'll have removal, but that gives me a free opportunity to try to Toxic him if he tries to defog on my Seismitoad, which I'll take that trade, because I can get up rocks probably later in the game. So that is the team we are bringing this week against Crimson and his Detroit Steel Wings. This team, I am not going to lie, I'm a little uncomfortable with it, mainly because I just don't like having more of a reactive team. I really like to have proactive teams where I have a game plan going in, I know exactly what I want to do to be able to win, and I don't think that's a possibility in this matchup, unfortunately, just because of the speed. This is why I like drafting faster teams than what I have this season in the GBA, and maybe this is one of those situations where, you know, I really wish I still had Latios. I think Latios matched up really well here, but unfortunately it's not what we have for this matchup, so we do have to make do. I think this team is going to be capable of getting the job done. I don't think it'll be pretty, but I think it's capable of getting the job done if I play well. I have to play well. Crimson is more than capable of knocking me off with this matchup and just in general. He is capable of doing that. I cannot take him lightly despite his record this season. So yeah, we're gonna have to give it our all here and see if we can continue the streak. Man, we're right now 5-0. As you know, we're 5-0. 6-0 would be one win away from my record in draft format. The best ever start I've ever had in draft format is 7-0. So if we win this game, we'll be one step closer to that, and maybe we can actually reach that record here in the next week. But we don't want to look forward. We have to win this game first, and I'm excited for it for sure, and I hope you guys are as well. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the battle, coming out probably tomorrow afternoon sometime. Don't know what time we are scheduled for quite yet, but be on the lookout for that. Once again, make sure to check out my opponent's channel to see his team builder and see his side of the battle as well. And with all that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.